Hi everyone, Sandra Duran Wilson here, and welcome to this week's Mixed Media Soul Sparks. Every week I bring you new ideas to kind of jumpstart your creativity, your painting, and this week we're going to look at some ideas for mounting and framing. I often get asked, how do I finish or frame my work, and do I work on panel or paper or canvas? Now, I do work on all of those, and here's a piece that I did in an earlier Mixed Media Soul Sparks, and it's on paper. And I'm going to show you a way that I'm going to mount it on foam core. Now, you've seen me do other videos where I've mounted this onto panel and then put it into a frame. This is a little bit different frame. It is made for using with a canvas panel that you would then screw into here. But I'm going to be gluing this in. But first I just want to show you this foam core. Now I get it in pretty big size sheets and then I cut it down. When you cut it, make sure that your craft knife is very sharp. Otherwise, you're going to get a jagged edge like I did right about here. I've painted it since then, so it's not so obvious. I like these little knives where you can just use your pliers to pop off the end. So if it's not sharp and you're not getting a really clean edge, then pop that off and get another one. So this is what it looks like. Well, I guess I painted all of it. But this is what it looks like. It's gray on the inside. And I just come in with some black gesso. You could use black paint and just paint that so that even if just a little bit of it shows, it's going to read all black. Now then I would mount this onto the foam core, and I'll just show you what I would use. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to use like a heavy gel, and a heavy rather than a soft gel, because a heavy gel, it's the viscosity, meaning it's going to hold that peak. So you can see this piece is a little warped. So what I would need to do this, I would take well, let's just go ahead and do it. And then I'll put a book on it later. So I'm going to take and press this, I'm going to spread it. You see, it's a pretty nice thick layer. Paper is absorbent. It's not like you're putting it on a panel where it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to get absorbed into this paper somewhat. Now, if your paper is gessoed, it's probably not going to absorb as much of the gel. And this paper isn't gessoed. So I want to make sure I get enough on. And then I'm also going to put some on here, especially toward the middle, because when I press this down, it's going to come out on the sides. So I'm not going to worry too much about that, just to clean off my knife. And then I'll take this and press it down, and then I'm going to put a book on top of it and let it dry at least overnight. And if you have any of the gel that got on the surface, either clean it off, let that dry, or put a piece of plastic wrap on top and then put your book on so that the book doesn't stick to the surface. Because this is thick paper, I'm not going to have those air bubbles like how we get when we adhere a thinner paper. Okay, so then when that is dry, I would take it and I would run a little bead of E6000 glue, press that in, and then weight it and let it dry. And I've showed you that before in the framing, so I'm not going to go over that. But what I do want to show you that I'm very excited about is this. Now, this is a piece of fabric. Not fabric, it's actually canvas. And I have done different things to it. It's got Venetian plaster, it's got paint, it's a variety of things. So just as I showed you how I did the paper and mounted it onto the foam core, so here's the foam core painted, and here it is unpainted. So I finished painting all those edges. I would take this and I would glue it down just like the first one I showed you. And then I'm going to create this basic frame. And let me show you what I did for this. This is a piece of plywood left over from a project, just low-grade plywood. Over here, I took and I painted it with black gesso. Now I'm going to show you how I did this. So this is molding paste, and I've got this textured paper. It's kind of a alligator skin paper. And this is embossing. And the trick with this embossing is you have to have it just the right thickness. If it's too thick, it's not going to work. If it's too thin or dry, it's not going to work. It's what I call a Goldilocks thing. And I'm taking it and spreading it with my knife. You're going to notice that those little ridges in there, because it's an inexpensive plywood, and you gesso it, it's got this, you can see the grain of the plywood. So by doing this, I'm covering up that and creating like as if it were a really nice frame. But it's something I can easily make myself. I want to show you everything from too thin to too thick to just right. Okay. Now on the paper, you can see that it's raised up on this side, and on this side it's pressed down in. So the side I want to use is this side. So when I press it in, the molding paste has somewhere to go. And it's just like dab. I'm not rolling it down too much. And I'm going to pull it up. And here, if you can see this area, how it like pulls apart, that means it's too thick. Here it's just right. So what I can do is come back in here and remove some of that and also take it off of the paper. Come back, press it down again. Again, over here, I'm going to actually move a little bit of it over into this area. Now, it's got a little bit of that raised area, but I could come back in, take some off. Kind of matching it up. There we were. That's the thing, if your paper's not big enough, you can still kind of move it around. I'm going to go in here with a different part. It might be getting a little too dry because I'm playing around with it too much. Let's go this way. But you see, it's forgiving. There we go. I like that one. And you're going to let that dry. I like to clean off some of this, otherwise it gets really filled in and a little difficult to use. I remember one time I had somebody try and wash it to get it off, but it's paper, so you don't want to do that. Now, once this is dry, then I'm going to show you how I created this particular color of paint. And sometimes it's hard to see in the camera, but it actually shifts color because I used two special paints. And it's kind of still wet and sticky. Let me get a... Well, actually, I don't think I even need a palette because This, I'm going to put it on directly onto here and then add water. This is an interference orange. And interference means that it's little mica flakes that kind of change colors as you go back and forth. So it almost looks gold, and then it can look orange. You probably see it a little more over the black. And we'll just run it over to here. But I mixed this iridescent bronze in with it. At the same time. I didn't let them dry in between. This is the lazy way to do it. You don't even need a palette. Just come in with some water. Because this iridescent bronze is a very special paint. Golden makes this, and it's the only one that breaks apart. And I've even diluted it with a little water. Make sure you shake it up well, because there's bronze particles in there, and there's even some kind of green paint. And what happens when you get this diluted with water, it's going to take it a couple of minutes to do the separation, and you'll be able to see it happen. Remember, I'm working on the dry side. That one's still wet. So this part, you can see that kind of green coming in. Here, it's still mostly bronze looking. I can spray a little more water on here, and that water, it helps it to separate. But because I have the texture with the molding paste, it's going to grab the paint in different ways. So you're going to get some areas of bronze and some of green. And then that little hint of the orange, the interference orange in there, will give it that extra reflective quality. So you can see it start to break apart here. I'm starting to see the green, and it just does its thing. So while that's drying, I'm going to talk about what you would do next when you get it painted all the way around. Then this is dry. I've got my edges painted black. I would come in here and just use some gel medium in here to glue this foam core on. It's so lightweight, and it's just lightweight canvas. So then I'll get that piece finished. Now you could adjust your colors to where it would work with whatever piece you're adhering. But this is a very inexpensive way to create a custom type of frame. The black foam core I got at the art supply store. I had somebody cut this into a 12-inch by 12-inch. On the back, I would just take some D-rings on the back to put my hanging wire on, and I would take my molding paste around the edges, let the molding paste dry, and then paint that just to finish it up. Or you could leave it black so that it accentuates like this black edge. So there's some great framing ideas for you. I hope you really have a good time with this. It's just a fun way to take even little bits and pieces that you don't want to spend a lot of money on framing, and a great way to present your work. Also, about presenting your work, go take a look at my just newly redone website at sandraduranwilson.com. And Faso just did a beautiful job of redoing my website. So let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week. Join the Creative Awakening community on Facebook, where you'll be able to post your art, connect with other creatives around the world, and ask questions. Use the hashtag MixedMediaSoulSparks when posting your work on social media. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.